First up, we're going to have Senate File 3583 from Senator Putnam, the Farmer Lender Mediation Act, extension provision. Senator Putnam, welcome. Welcome, Senator Putnam. You may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As is customary before I present before you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to say that this is going to be brief, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try to take the entire 2 hours. Mr. Chair, Senate File 3583 refers to a program that we've had in the state of Minnesota since the 80s called Farmer Lender Mediation. This is a historically difficult time to be a farmer. It's always difficult to be in agriculture, but today is worse than it's been in a very, very long time. Rising costs of inputs, fixed expenses, depressed economy of trade and of commodity prices. It's a very, very difficult time to be a farmer. We are looking at a kind of economic and personal trauma that we haven't seen since the 1980s in ag land right now. And Minnesota has a wonderful program where it sits people down with the farmer and the bank and works out a way to solve the loans and keep the farmers on the land, keep them doing the work that they're doing. And that is the Farmer Lender Mediation Program. So in this program, if you have a debt of greater than $15,000, you can have the state help you negotiate with your bank so that you can stay on the farm and keep your business going and your lifestyle working. The Farmer Lender Mediation Program works in over 90% of the times that it's invoked, and it does a tremendous amount of good to help people stay on the farms and keep doing what they're doing. We had over 1,700 mediations completed in the last year, and 90% of them resulted in a mutually agreeable solution. This is not just good economics, and it's not just good ag policy, it's good Midwestern Minnesotan values, where people have problems with each other and they sit down and work them out together. That's what this bill does. In essence, this bill simply makes a change in the date and the sunset of the program and extends it for another 5 years. Mr. Chair, that is the totality of the bill.
Thank you, Senator Putnam. First on the testifier list, we got Hunter Peterson with the Minnesota Farm Bureau Federation.
Who is that?
Welcome, Hunter. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Fate. For the record, my name is Hunter Peterson. I have the privilege of serving as the public policy specialist for Minnesota Farm Bureau Federation. We are a nonpartisan grassroots general farm organization with over 30,000 family farm and ranch members across the state of Minnesota. And I am pleased to be here today in support of Senate File 3583, and I will say that we also support Senate File 3584 as well, Mr. Chair. We strongly support extending the Farmer Lender Mediation Program. Credit is a key financing tool for the vast majority of farmers out there, but as Senator Putnam mentioned, we're in a very difficult farm economy right now, and so the result of that is that some folks are struggling to manage their debt. And there's data from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture that shows that mediations are on the rise, requests for mediation are on the rise. And what this program really does is it buys farmers time, and it gives them options on how to manage their debt instead of declaring bankruptcy or having to go into foreclosure. And so this would be a timely extension given the hardships in farm country, and this program will help save family farms. So I'd like to thank Senator Putnam for bringing both those bills forward. Thank you for hearing them, Mr. Chair, and I would appreciate the committee's support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I was informed that that's actually Carter, not Hunter. That's so nice try, Carter. Is there any questions for Hunter? Senator Oumou Verbeten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if this was a question for Hunter or for Senator Putnam, but just if there's a cost.
Senator Putnam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much, Senator Oumou Verbeten. I think that this would be best answered perhaps by someone who's involved in the program itself. So, Mr. Chair, can I call up Whitney Place from University of Minnesota Extension?
Absolutely. Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Whitney Place. I'm the Director of Government Affairs and Agricultural Outreach at University of Minnesota Extension, where the Farmer-Lender Mediation Program is housed. You all may know that there's a fiscal note attached to this bill. The fiscal note reflects the anticipated costs of the FLM program to the state of Minnesota. These costs are already covered under the existing higher ed special appropriation, previously the Ag State Special, now referred to as the Natural Resources Special Appropriation under the extension budget, and no additional funding would be needed to continue the program on.
Thank you, Senator Oumou Verbeten. Awesome. Any other questions from members? Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, so the funding was already provided. Was it just an oversight in the past on the date? Or I'm just wondering why the date wasn't changed when the funding was provided.
Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Farnsworth. So the program has always sunsetted every 5 years. And in this case, the cost is the U had, in essence, as I understand it, Ms. Place can correct me if I'm wrong, the U had the budgetary consequences from the U planning not to have to pay for it in the future. So the funding is still there, but the fiscal note is a function of the U thinking, oh, we'll use that money for something else in 5 years. And so they're saying it's going to cost them something because we're telling them to continue to spend it here.
Thank you. Good. Awesome. Thank you all so much for that. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you. Next up, we have Stu Laurie from the Minnesota Farmers Union. Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Stu Laurie, Government Relations Director for Minnesota Farmers Union. And on behalf of our family farmer members, I'm glad to share our strongest support for both of Senator Putnam's bills to extend and strengthen farmer-lender mediation. At our state convention in November, our members defined our top priority as responding to the economic crisis in farm country, and a chief priority within that was extending and strengthening the farmer-lender mediation program. Just another data point, in 2024, the last date that we have, the last year that we have full data for farm finances, that was the lowest farm income since the 1990s, maybe in my lifetime. So when it comes to stabilizing the farm economy, a lot of the levers are at the federal level, but the farmer-lender mediation program is a key piece that the state's responsible for. It's a program that you hope you never need to use as a farmer, but when you do have a debt enforced, you're glad that it's there. Just two stories that we've heard from members. One, a farmer, her husband was mismanaging funds. She didn't know that. He went and wasn't communicating with her during harvest, and she realized that equipment companies were coming to take their equipment. She filed for mediation, got a 90-day pause, was able to work with that lender and take her crop off. Ultimately, her farm didn't look the same, but she was able to keep farming. Another, a dairy farmer, dairy very labor intensive, got an injury. He had a large loan with a very large national lender, and they were putting the pressure on him. He was able to work for 90 days with mediation, give him the time, sell that dairy herd. Today, he still raises beef cattle. So his operation doesn't look the same, but it's not hyperbole to say that this program saves farms. We've heard those stories, and we know it to be true. It's also, worth two things that are worth stating. One, farmer-lender mediation, the staff there work with all of the rest of the supports that Minnesota has to offer, be they at the university or at the Department of Agriculture, farm advocates, and the like. And also, these mediations often, farms are in some ways a unique business because they're also that person's home. They're not only the livelihood, they're their home, their history, and all of that is tied up in it. So we really appreciate you hearing this bill. We don't take for granted that Chair Putnam heard it on his first committee hearing. We don't take for granted that you're making time in a short session, and we hope it earns your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from members for Mr. Laurie? Seeing none, Thank you so much for your testimony, Mr. Laurie. And I think that's the last of the testifiers, Senator Putnam, and I want to thank you on behalf of the Democratic Farmer Lenders Caucus for this legislation, and I'll pass it off to you for the last word.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. One thing, I don't know if there are these letters in your packet, but these letters were submitted to the Agriculture Committee, and you'll notice a letter from Compeer. Compeer and Ag Country are the banks that we're talking about here. The banks actually want to sit down with the farmers and work things out. It's in everyone's best interest. This is a very simple, straightforward, and successful thing that government can do to help people stay on their farms, continue to contribute to our economy, and to maintain their lifestyles and their ways of life. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Senator Putnam, and this is going to Finance, correct?
Yes, please.
Awesome. Senator Putnam, would you like to make the motion?
Sure.
Awesome. Senator Putnam moves that SF 3583 be referred to the Committee on Finance. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The bill passes and is referred on to the Committee on Finance. Thank you, Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next up, you also have SF 3584, the Farmer Lender Mediation Program hiring appropriation. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Awesome. And you may speak to that too, Senator.
Thanks much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to say everything I've just said and say it again. In the spirit of our government and the legislature, I'm just going to repeat myself for the next 5 minutes. No, Mr. Chair, this is the program we were just talking about. One of the things that I think is really important to realize, as I referred to the 1980s and the farm crisis and its contemporary relevance, in the 1980s, we had such a huge problem in ag land that we had people taking their own lives. It was a really difficult, horrible time. And in response to that crisis, we created lots of great programs. We legislatively created a AURI, the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute, which helps farmers find ways to sell the things that they're growing. That was created in the 1980s. We created the Farmer Advocate Program that dealt with mental health for farmers throughout the state. And we also created the Farmer Lender Mediation Program. Now, the thing about these programs and how successful they are is that a lot of people who are doing this work started doing it in the 1980s. So we have a lot of people who have been doing this work for a very long time and doing it very well. Given the tenure of many of folks who've been involved in this program and the need to start to consider transitions and the difficulty of replacing someone who's been doing something for a really long time with folks who are new to it, we've decided to ask for a small amount of additional resources to make sure that the program stays at the strength that it's at, but also to respond to some of the difficulties that ag land is facing right now, given the increased need right now. When we're talking about 3 to 4 times as many farmer lender mediation sessions this year than were last year, we think that the program could use a little bit of additional economic support. This is extremely cheap relative to a lot of the other things the government can do at $150,000, and it will do tremendous good. So, Mr. Chair, all this is a little bit of extra resource for staffing in the Farmer Lender Mediation Program.
Thank you, Senator Putnam. And this is also going to Finance. Is that
Please.
correct? Awesome. Are there any questions for Senator Putnam? Would you like to move this to be? Would you like to move this?
Please,
bill
Mr.
also?
Chair.
Awesome. Senator Putnam moves that SF 3584 be passed and referred to the Committee on Finance. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? You're on the way to Finance, Senator Putnam. Thank you. Yeah, Senator Putnam, I might have said SF 3584 twice. The first passage was SF 3583, so just want a clarification. Next up, we have Senator Gustafson, SF 4297, post-secondary institutions clearly noticing deadlines for full reimbursement of tuition requirements. Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members. This bill is about transparency for students and families when they enroll in college courses. So today, many colleges clearly list and add drop dates, but the deadline to drop a class and receive full tuition refund is often different and surprisingly difficult to find. And I should clear out, this is not at every school, this is at some, and we're just trying to make sure that it's accessible no matter where a student goes to school. But in some cases, students only discover that deadline after it is passed, and they are responsible for the full cost of the course. We heard from a student at a college in Moorhead who experienced exactly the situation. The student enrolled in a course during the spring 2026 semester that ultimately was not a good fit. They had been told by an advisor and by information on the school website that they could drop or change a full semester class without charge up to 10 school days into the semester. However, after withdrawing from the course, before the 10-day mark, they received notice that they would not receive a full refund. When the student contacted two separate campus offices for clarification, neither office could clearly explain whether the charge was correct or what the final cost would be. After several days of emails and phone calls, the student was still uncertain about the deadline and the financial consequences. For students who rely on loans, loans, or carefully budget their semester costs, unexpected tuition charges can create real financial stress. This bill addresses that problem in a very simple way. It requires colleges and universities to clearly disclose the deadline to drop a course and receive a full tuition refund at the time of registration and in standard materials like an institution's website, handbook, or catalog. When students register for a class, they should know exactly when the financial commitment becomes final. This bill does not regulate tuition or academic policy. It simply ensures that students have clear information so that they can make informed decisions about their schedules and their finances. Thank you. We do have an amendment. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we have an amendment.
No worries. Yes, I was just going to ask about that. Would you like to discuss that amendment or let us know what it's about? And I think that members had the amendment passed out. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, it's the A4, and what this amendment does is the amendment strengthens the bill by requiring refund deadlines to be disclosed at the time of registration and by adding a complaint and enforcement process through the Office of Higher Education if schools fail to provide the information. So it makes three key changes. It strengthens the timing of disclosure. Instead of requiring disclosure before the add drop period, the amendment requires the deadline to be disclosed at the time of registration when the students are making the financial commitment, and then adds a complaint and enforcement process. Students may file complaints with OHE if the disclosure requirement is not followed, and it also establishes penalties and remedies if needed. So if a violation is found, the Office of Higher Education may require policy corrections. They could order tuition refunds for affected students or impose fines if appropriate. So the bottom line is that students should know the financial deadline for dropping a class before they are responsible for thousands of dollars in tuition costs. And this would simply ensure that the information is clear and accessible.
Thank you, Senator Gustafson. Senator Oumou Verbeten moves the A4 amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The amendment is adopted. Are there any members' questions on the bill as amended? Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Gustafson, for bringing this bill. We do have some folks in the higher ed biz here, so I'm curious if we could force Mr. Oman up to the desk and perhaps ask him his opinion on the issue.
Mr. Oman, welcome.
Sabers are supposed to stick together.
Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Chair Fateh, members, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this bill. I can just say what Minnesota State does. We have a board policy and procedure as it relates to withdrawing from classes that is uniform across all of our campuses. That policy and procedure, just when the bill came, is readily not only available on websites, but also on students' e-services. And that is how the communication as it relates to the business office works for our students. So we have no issues certainly with the first part of the, on number one, where bold location in the system websites. We feel we have far exceed that in that area of transparency. Couple, I don't know if it's concerns or observations. I don't know how beneficial a 200,000 email blast works for students twice a year. That would come from the institution. Again, laying out this, we think we have already communicated that with students in a very strong way. And I would say that in talking to folks that are in our student affairs over the past couple of days, and I was able to connect with one of the student groups, this concern has not been brought to our attention by our student groups, and we have ways, obviously, to work that through. I will say, as policy and procedure, we look at that every 5 years, and as it's coming up, my understanding is there's a desire to expand the dates for withdrawal without any cost to the student and on transcript for a longer period of time. Now, that's not brought to the students. That's just, I think, something that is being discussed. Finally, there is an appeal process that campuses have with campus presidents have a lot of leeway to go in when the student even is halfway through the semester to waive any potential costs of if there's an illness or if there's family concern, if there's a military deployment or something like that. So I would just suggest that it might be better for us to manage that inside of Minnesota State in the appeals process, because I think it's a bit clumsy for us to then go over to the Office of Higher Education and not manage that internally. And if there are issues on something like this with our campuses, and you hear about it, we want to know about it to fix it, because obviously transparency and cost and those things are very, very important. But we believe we're certainly going down the path of doing the intent of the bill already, and will continue to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. Senator Gustafson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, most schools do this, and we do appreciate that. I know that Minn State does a very good job of having that transparency available to students. The problem is that not all colleges do that, and we want to have an appeals process that's outside an institution, because should a student be rejected from the school on their case based on that school policy, they should have an outside authority able to review it as well, just to keep it fair. And again, a direct written communication can be an email. I completely sympathize as both a parent of students and as a former student, the amount of emails that you might get from an institution, but we do feel that this is important when you're talking about the financial commitment of young people, or any people.
Mr. Chair,
Thank
and
you,
those
sir.
of you that know me would understand that if I had this many emails about how to drop out of classes or withdraw, I'd probably be finishing my sophomore year this year.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. Senator Oumou Verbeten?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Gustafson, for bringing it forward. And I'm not sure if these are questions you'll be able to answer, but I'm just curious, because the letter that we had in our packet is from a student at Concordia College Moorhead. And then we just heard about the Minnesota State systems process for this, and they feel they're already compliant and have an appeals process. I totally agree that there should be an additional process for students outside of the school. Are you aware how our private institutions handle this? Do you know if that's the case? I see, actually, Paul Cervinek's probably coming forward. I'm curious if it's the same process across those different institutions, or if it varies by the different private institutions. And then I also have the same question for the University of Minnesota.
Senator Gustafson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Oumou Verbeten. I don't know about the uniform process of colleges. I think because they are privately owned, they probably operate within their own jurisdictions and their own preferences. I was going out of my way not to mention a specific school, but yep, it was from a private school in Moorhead. Sorry, Senator Kupek. But I think again, most schools are trying to do this on the front end, but we just want to make sure that we're protecting the students who are paying thousands and thousands of dollars to take classes. But if Mr. Chair would like to hear from the private schools, it's totally at your just jurisdiction or discretion.
Yeah, Mr. Serkvek, you'd like to come up and tongue twister. And please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Chair Fateh, members of the committee, I'm Paul Serkvek. I'm president of the Minnesota Private College Council. Thank you for the question, Senator Oumou Verbeten, and the opportunity to answer it or speak to it. When we saw this bill was introduced yesterday, I emailed all of our colleges. I sent them the bill, and I asked them if they already comply, if they could comply, and what issues or concerns they had. So far, not all 18 have responded, but more than half have. And the vast majority of them said they either already comply or they would be able to comply with small changes. I can't tell you that's true of all 18, but I think there's a pretty clear trend there. I can say that I don't believe we will have any objections to the bill. I had a short conversation with Senator Gustafson about the effective date because colleges are already printing catalogs for next year, and that was a thing they raised in their email responses to me. They also indicated it's more complicated at schools that have different term start dates and short period classes, and that's just an administrative complication. It's not as simple as one thing for every student once at the start of a semester, but nobody sent back objections that to the concept.
Thank you. Senator Verbeten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we hear from the University of Minnesota?
Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair, as well as Senator, for the question. My name is Nate Peterson. I serve as the Executive Director of Student Finance at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. I'm here representing the 5 University of Minnesota system campuses. For the vast majority of this, we feel that we already comply and are over-compliant, if that's a fun way to put it. For example, our refund deadlines are already published out through spring of 2027, so students can already look at those right now on our websites. I believe we have offered a couple of notes to the senator about this. Otherwise, we are here to say that we, like I said, mostly comply already.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, and some of what's in A4 came from conversations with those higher ed institutions. So we did take that seriously and put that into consideration. We appreciate the work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And there's an offer for an oral amendment to double the violation for St. Cloud. Is that what we want? Awesome. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from members? Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Gustafson, I might have missed it, but is there a cost to this, or is the Office of Higher Education just going to absorb the new work that would come with these investigations?
Senator Gustafson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, if schools, and as we've heard from several, are saying it's easy to comply or that they're already in compliance, or as U of M says, over-compliance, then we don't anticipate that OHE will see a vast amount of work that would be increased on this. And if they do, then, yeah, that cost would be absorbed. There is no fiscal note.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Gustafson. Before we pass it out, is this going to judiciary? Is that correct, Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your choice, judiciary or state, local gov, whoever you like best.
Okay. Sounds good. Any closing comments, Senator?
I would just say thank you for your time. I think this is good. I think it's an easy thing to do, and I think anything we can do to just teach our students about fiscal responsibility and how to manage those tuition dollars, especially knowing that they're going up all the time, is a good thing to do. So that's it.
Thank you so much. And we're going to pass it off to judiciary. That's cool. Senator Kupek moves that SF 30, where is the number? 4297 as amended be passed on to the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you so much, Senator Gustafson. Last up, we have Senator Oumou Verbeten. Welcome, Senator. You may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill establishes a dual enrollment funding task force to take a serious data-driven look at how Minnesota funds dual enrollment programs and how that funding structure is working for students, agencies, and education institutions. We were one of the first, we were actually the first state in the nation to pass a dual enrollment law in 1986. And it's one of our most effective tools to reduce college costs, accelerate degree completion, and strengthen workforce readiness. According to the Minnesota Department of Education's 2025 rigorous course taking report, participation in concurrent enrollment and PSEO has grown to nearly 50,000 students per year. As the program has grown, the funding structures have evolved unevenly. Our districts report administrative complexity. Post-secondary partners are navigating varying cost structures, and access still differs significantly depending on geography and student background. So this bill doesn't change or rewrite any statute around the PSEO program, but it does create a structured, time-limited task force that will bring together funding experts, agencies, schools, and community stakeholders to study how the current funding formulas operate in practice, where there are gaps, inequities, and unintended barriers, regional cost variations, administrative burdens, and whether adjustments can enhance the dual enrollment experience for all stakeholders. And the task force would deliver some recommendations to the legislature within the next year. I think to improve outcomes, we're going to need really clear data and a coordinated input before we make any changes to this program. So I have been having lots of conversations with stakeholders and have an amendment before you today to add some additional stakeholders to the task force. I will say I am open for conversation and really want to make sure that everyone is at the table that needs to be at the table. This is a big task at hand and a lot of different people who need to be involved in the process. So doors always open to have those conversations, but I'm adding some more folks in the amendment today, and then would love to continue having conversation with folks. I can explain that in more detail too if that's helpful for the committee, because I know this isn't the first stop.
Awesome. First, would you like to move the A7 amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The amendment is adopted. Senator Oumou Verbeten.
Thank you. Yeah, so just to give you a little bit more context, the bill was first heard in the Education Policy Committee. There we heard from principals that they wanted to be added. They've been added to the bill. We added a representative from most of all of our systems here. Our tribal colleges were added in this amendment. Wanted to have some distinction between our 2-year institutions and 4-year institutions in Minnesota State. I'm still having conversations, especially with our faculty members, about their representation, but there is a faculty member and a counselor in the task force membership, both on the higher ed side and the E12 side. There is I think of other folks that are added on here. I think it covers the folks in the amendment, but again, still having conversations with folks and would appreciate any discussion in this committee too of other people that you think should be involved in the task force. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from members? Seeing none, we'll move on to our first testifier, Beatrice Hanlon, President for People for PSEO. Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Hi, thank you. My name is Beatrice Hanlon. I am a resident of White Bear Lake, Minnesota. I'm a former PSEO student, and as you said, I'm the president of People for PSEO, which is a nonprofit dedicated to promoting, defending, and expanding opportunities through the PSEO program and dual enrollment as a whole. I am here in support of SF 2769, which, if adopted, would establish a task force to analyze the dual enrollment funding formulas and make recommendations to ensure equitable, transparent, and adequate funding for all stakeholders. The task force is vital to the continued success and growth of the PSEO program. The program has now existed for 40 years, and participation rates continue to grow according to MDE data and continues to close achievement gaps. And you can see this information in the packet I provided. The program saves students time and money on post-secondary education and provides the student opportunities to students that may not have been accessible to them before. Not every school offers advanced placement courses or concurrent enrollment, or even full ranges of career and technical education options. So PSEO fills that gap and decreases this barrier. Students want to and will continue to utilize this program because of the opportunities it provides. However, there are still gaps. Students struggle to access information. You can see the report in the packet. There is transportation issues, and access to meals on campus is difficult for students. And there has been continuous discourse on the funding formula. And this task force will begin to address the gaps in the funding formula and provide solutions that serve all stakeholders without hurting student engagement, and providing solutions so that school districts and higher ed institutions are happy. Finally, I want to thank Senator Oumou Verbeten and Coleman for their work on this legislation, and to the members of the committee for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we have Pranav Sriram, who is Executive Director for People for PSEO. I apologize if I messed up your name.
No problem at all.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Absolutely. My name is Pranav Sriram, also a resident of Eden Prairie, Minnesota. I'm the current Executive Director at People for PSEO, which Beatrice just gave a little bit of a rundown on. I'm also just here to broadcast and air my support for SF 2769 as well. Mostly a lot of anecdotal evidence on my end for what PSEO can do for students across the state. Stems from my roommate in college being from rural Minnesota and really being able to achieve a lot of his educational outcomes through his participation in the program, and being able to participate in a lot of higher ed and physics courses that weren't offered in his school district, as well as my own brother, who had an individualized education plan at Eden Prairie and was able to find a lot of success by utilizing the program, and saved 2 years of time as well as a lot of tuition costs as well. Predominantly speaking, my support for the bill stems from the fact that anytime there's an opportunity to amplify student voices, especially in a space like this, capitalizing on that serves as a vote of confidence in our youth, certainly, and our citizenry. And anytime we offer them an opportunity to be able to speak and be able to provide valuable insight on the importance of these programs and how they function and how they're funded, certainly can stand to benefit our state from that perspective as well. Again, I'd like to thank Senators Verbeten as well as Coleman for putting this bill together. And anytime we're able to offer an opportunity to speak well about PSEO, I'll certainly be one of the people there to do so. And once again, I'd like to thank the committee for providing me this opportunity today to testify as well. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Last up, we have, no, sorry, it's not the last one. Joe Nathan, who is the founder and former director for the Center for School Change. Welcome. You please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Joe Nathan. I worked on this bill, now law, 40 years ago, and I am here to support the bill and thank the authors for their work on this. I want to make 4 quick points. First of all, is a piece of good news. One of the handouts that you have is this document. There's a lot of discussion in the state about increasing the number of young people who have a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, or some kind of certificate. This is one of the very best tools that Minnesota has to reach this goal. Not everyone needs to have a 2-year or 4-year degree, but as you can see from this document, in every single economic and socioeconomic group, white, black, Asian American, Hispanic, Native American, every single group benefits from participating in PSEO or college in the schools. It is one of the most valuable tools that we have, and a second piece of good news is that it saves taxpayers money. Because the dollars follow the students, it literally saves taxpayers in this state yearly, according to Mark Musikanis, former fiscal agent here in the Minnesota Senate, it saves Minnesota taxpayers $15 million a year, as well as families about $60 million a year. We often talk about how to spend money more efficiently. This actually saves money. This is also a testament to bipartisan collaboration. 40 years ago, it has been continued as a support. It has been continued to have support from both Republicans and Democrats for 40 years. So this is a really good deal for taxpayers. It's a really good deal for families. Are there some ways to improve it? Yes, there are. I want to point out a second handout, which is the attainment goal. In 2015, the Minnesota legislature adopted the attainment goal, which said that by 2025, the state legislature, in its wisdom, said that most of the good jobs would require a certificate, which could be earned in 6 to 12 months, or a 2-year degree, or a 4-year degree, and it wanted to have 70% of the youngsters ages 25 to 44 achieving that. Unfortunately, as you can see from this document, not a single group achieved that goal. And a lot of good work was done by this committee and previous committees, but one of the things that was underused was PSEO. And why was that? Well, as another part of the document shows, and our center did 4 separate studies of this. People for PSEO did a study on this that showed the vast majority of public schools are not following the law. The law requires that every public school in the state provide up-to-date information about PSEO on its website. And as our organization documented, and as people for PSEO documented, there are serious gaps in more than half of the public schools. So this is one of the things that we're going to talk about in the committee. What happens when public schools don't follow the law? It's not that it hasn't been publicized, it has. It's not that it hasn't been brought to the attention of the Department of Education, it has. It's not that it hasn't been brought to the attention of the Minnesota Office of Higher Education, it has. Notices have gone out, but school districts throughout the state of Minnesota continue to not provide the information that's required. So this is one of the things that will be discussed. The good news is that the senator, the chief authors have done a terrific job of publicizing this, and many people have stepped forward to say that they want to participate in this, which is great. We want to make sure that young people and families are at the center of this. We want to make sure that there's significant representation of young people and families who are supposed to benefit from the laws. We think it's great that employees, we think that it's great that people who are working in the system be involved, and the chair agrees. So we are agreed. This is an important committee. It needs discussion, but there are some serious issues along with the financial issues. Finally, Mr. Chair, if it's all right with you, my colleague, Kalik Rogers, would like to make a brief statement. Mr. Rogers and I met 14 years ago when he was 17, when he was the only African-American male in his school to take PSEO for reasons that he will explain in just a minute. If you're willing to hear from him for just a moment, I hope that you would be willing to let him speak. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Absolutely. Hello, committee chair and committee members. My name is Kalik Rogers, Executive Director of Catalyst for Systems Change. Thank you for making time for this brief testimony. I am in strong support of a task force to support protecting and strengthening PSEO. Programs like PSEO expanding opportunities to reduce financial barriers and helping students see pathways that might otherwise feel out of reach. At a time when changes are being considered that could restrict access, it is critical that this program remains open and equitable for all students. When I was a high school student at Gordon Parks High School, I had the privilege of taking advantage of a test called the AccuPlacer at that time. It helped you understand where your grades were, if you were also college ready. To my surprise, I had reached college readiness on reading and math, and I wanted to test my skills out. So I'd heard through the grapevine there was a program called PSEO, so I went to my counselor to take advantage of the opportunity. But to my surprise, I was discouraged. Was told, like, hey, aren't the packets hard enough? And for me, that wasn't what I expected to hear from the adults in the space. And I expected encouragement, but I was discouraged to take the opportunity. But for myself, I just acknowledged that it was up to me to bet on myself with the opportunity, and that their fears were not mine. And I had a higher expectation of myself, and I was able to succeed in the program. That is actually how I met Joe Nathan. He came to the school like Morpheus from the Matrix, and I didn't know who he was, but once we got connected and understood that he was one of the pivotal people to help create the program 40 years ago today, just gave me a better understanding the difference of what support and stewardship really looks like, especially for young people's education experience. And my experience reflects a broader reality that students of color and first-generation college students are sometimes discouraged from advanced opportunities based on perception rather than their actual ability. When access depends on assumptions instead of aspirations, we risk limiting talent before it has the chance to develop. PSEO, as we've heard, saves millions of dollars. And today I would give credit to that opportunity because it expanded my vision of possibilities. And I know for sure I wouldn't be the executive director of Catalyst for Systems Change if I didn't have those early investments. So when it comes to the task force, I strongly urge to have people with lived experience because that'll help inform the roads that lead to their dreams and if that infrastructure is designed well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rogers, for your testimony, and thank you as well, Dr. Nathan. Thank you. Last up, we have Mark Grant from MSCF. Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Senator Verbeten. Members, for the record, my name is Mark Grant. I'm a communication studies instructor at Dakota County Technical College, and I currently help work on the governmental relations work on behalf of Minnesota State College faculty. In the interest of complete honesty, I was told Leo would be here today, but apparently I'll just hang out with all y'all. I want to thank Senator Oumou Verbeten for bringing this bill forward. I've been teaching for 28 years, and we've been talking about dual enrollment in some way, shape, or form for my entire career. Those conversations have historically revolved around dual enrollment's mission, access, delivery, rigor, accountability, and credentials. And MSCEF, in all honesty, is interested in continuing to have those conversations. In fact, in many respects, we're eager to have those, but we've also become convinced that the conversations have shifted a little bit over the past years, and those previous conversations proved less than fruitful until we focus on the money. That seems to be the thing that kind of takes over every conversation. Currently, the fix depends on who you ask and what method of dual enrollment seems to harm their institution. We do believe that there's an approach out there that centers on the student, but does not financially disadvantage either the districts or our campuses, and MSCF looks forward to being part of those conversations. I want to thank Senator Oumou Verbeten for her amendment and her willingness to include a faculty voice in this dual enrollment task force. Faculty in the classroom oftentimes have a unique perspective that differs from campus administration and even Minnesota State, so we really do appreciate being included. However, the current amendment creates a spot on the task force for a single faculty member from the Minnesota State system. We understand that striking the right balance with the task force can be challenging, but we'd like to see a spot for both MSCF, the two-year college faculty, and the IFO, the university faculty. MSCF and IFO have very different relationships with dual enrollment. It plays itself out differently on our campuses, and we think both perspectives would probably be needed to get a full picture of the task force work. But MSCF is in full support of the task force and the role it'll play in examining our current dual enrollment funding model and hopefully how it might be improved. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Are there any questions from members for Senator Duckworth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. And I guess I'll just preface any questions or comments that I make by saying that what's interesting to me is I think PSEO universally is accepted as a pretty phenomenal program. Usually when we say something like we were the first in the nation to pilot this, it's usually because we're pretty proud of it and it was duplicated and grew exponentially, which is the case here. Testimony has said enrollment continues to grow, it's closing the achievement gap, et cetera. All good things, which is why my spidey senses begin to tingle when we're now asking for a task force or a study to dive deeper into it. And maybe it's only because more recently when we discussed PSEO, a law was passed that was ultimately found to be unconstitutional. And the issue with that law that some of us had was that we thought that it would maybe preclude students from being able to participate in PSEO. I'm not going to rehash that or bring that up, but I will say that's why I'm cautious when I look at this bill and kind of question what the second and third order effects might end up being. Discussing dual enrollment funding formula, well, I would love some more background. It doesn't have to be during this hearing, maybe later, saying, well, what's currently wrong with the funding formula? What are the examples? What are we seeing? What are the issues? I'd love to hear from some school districts regarding this bill. Let's get some superintendents, some board members, you name it, up here to talk to us about the issues, the enrollment, funding formula, et cetera, to ensure equitable, transparent, and adequate funding for all stakeholders. What does that mean? Right now, my understanding is if you're a student at a public school that offers PSEO, you have the ability to pursue it. And if you don't, then we've got bigger issues that we need to discuss. And then I start to gain concerns for a couple other things I read in here when it talks about examining the cost and the financial sustainability of courses eligible for dual credit, a focus on equitable access and student support services, analyze the cost variations among post-secondary institutions. And I'm naturally an optimistic person, but if I was a pessimist reading some of this language, it would clearly indicate to me that there's likely, this task force is being created already with some objectives in mind. And my worry would be that if those objectives were to become a reality, it's going to result in less course opportunities for students and less PSEO institutions available to students. That's my concern. I don't want to see it go that direction. Also, PSEO dollars exist for a very specific purpose in my intent. It's to help students attend, cover the tuition or the cost of the education at these institutions, period, right? That sets them up for success. They earn higher education. Their families save a lot of money. The money isn't necessarily dedicated to fund provisions for student support services, including counseling, transportation, and meal access. And so again, I sound like a broken record at times, but in whatever committee you're in, if everything is a priority, well, then nothing is a priority. PSEO works really well because we know what the priority is. It's kids getting the education, period. Not all the other things that we sometimes might think are well-intended that they may or may not need help with, but we only have so many dollars. And the more thinly we spread them, the less impactful those dollars are for the intended purpose, which in this case, in my opinion, is those higher education goals. So if we're gonna have the task force and we're gonna do a study and have this looked into more in depth, I just really wanna caution us that we're not taking steps backward, that we're actually taking steps forward, expanding access, making it more available to more students, and not diverting funding from what is a phenomenal program to other things that are going to actually, take us a couple of steps backward. That's all I've got, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Oumou Verbeten?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for your comments, Senator Duckworth. I'm a former PSEO student, so I really appreciated participating in this program. I think that's part of why I'm here today. And we heard about that from Mr. Rogers and folks from People for PSEO. I think in a lot of ways, the concerns that we've been hearing from districts or higher education institutions have sometimes gotten in the way of our students knowing about the program and having access to it. I think that continues to be a barrier. Part of why transportation and meals is named, I've been working with People for PSEO about this since I came to the legislature. That continues to be a barrier for students to participate. And we know there's also very different experiences for our students that are in the metro area versus greater Minnesota. So I certainly have the goal of wanting to remove barriers, increase access, and try to be responsive to the concerns that, our stakeholders across this education system are bringing up so that we can find a path that works for our families, our young people that, should be able to take advantage of this program but aren't able to because of some of those barriers that exist.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kupik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the task force is necessary, particularly for the reasons that Senator Oumou Verbeten just listed, but also there are some problems within the formula. Within my district, larger school like Moorhead, they're like, we have no problem, we can swing this. But the smaller schools take a hit on the money that they get from the state because we don't reimburse them enough when they send those kids actually onto a college campus. And then they're sending money to the college, but we're not reimbursing them enough. So the smaller schools in particular take a hit. I had a whole bunch of superintendents from northern Minnesota schools in my office today, and this was exactly what they were saying. And then I think the other concern that they had too was some of the online offerings that some of their high school kids take the online offerings, and I think parents think you're going to college, and they're sitting, you know, in the back room on their computer, and they're like, I thought you were going to be in college. They don't, and obviously college has changed since pandemic, but that's a concern. They also have as well. So I think with the task force, absolutely, the formula, there are some issues with the formula, and we'll need to look at how we're making those whole.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Verbeten.
Thank you. Yeah, Senator Kubek, you're definitely getting at that. I think those of us are on the other education committees, we hear about that a lot. That's also why we want to have, and the bill does mention having school board member, charter school board member, superintendent, principal, high school teacher who does college in the schools, a high school counselor, as a part of this task force. I also think on the, when you're talking about how our smaller schools can really take a hit, if we look at where students are taking these college courses, there are especially some two-year institutions, but also four-year institutions, especially in Minnesota State, where they're making up a big portion of the student body. So if we make changes there, there would be some impacts to their budgets as well. So it's just a lot for us to figure out. We got to get the stakeholders at the table, but it's such a good program, and I want us to make sure that students have access to this, and that all these other pieces are not getting in the way of people being able to take those college courses.
Senator Kupek.
One more thing, because I'm old and my brain, it left me while I was speaking, but now it came back, so that happens sometimes. I guess the other thing, and hopefully this task force will look at this too, was that there was some concern from school districts that when they go off and they take these college classes, if they are failing or not doing well, that their guidance counselors back at their high school are not aware of that information. And I think it's still important that they're getting good counseling, on their career going forward. So maybe if we need to open the silos up a little bit for a little communication back and forth, I think that would also be helpful.
Absolutely. Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like Senator Kupek.
Kupek with a K, not with a P, please.
The second best Rob in the committee. I have a lot of schools that are concerned about this. They have a lot of students that are taking PSEO. And I'm trying to wrap my head around the actual, so this is created to deal with funding, make funding recommendations, and Senator Duckworth mentioned maybe we could get the answers to what are the funding problems. And so as I understand it, I'll use my own school district as an example. So the Hibbing School District, they get the formula from the state. If a student is full-time PSEO, they get to keep a certain percentage for the administrative part, and then pretty much the rest of it goes to the school. I've also recently been told that the college also gets paid from the state for the number of total students they have, which would include PSEO, and I haven't verified that. So is there anybody in the room that would know, is that true? Are they getting sort of double payment, or is it just the 90% of the formula from the high school to the college?
Mr. Chair, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if council can weigh in or if there's other folks that are here.
Are there any testifiers or anyone in the audience that would like to answer the question? Mr. Ullman.
Chair Fateh, Bernie, Minnesota State, Senator Farnsworth. My understanding is that PSEO students are considered in the allocation formula that we send to the campuses. I don't know if there's a proration. I'd have to research that, but it does affect their enrollment. And it's considered a part of our allocation. I will say, and the senator alluded to that you know, you can have a lot of studies on this, but it does come down to the dollars, and it comes down to student access and what the legislature ultimately decides to do with this. And I would just say, as the higher ed committee going into next session, that, you know, Mr. Nathan did a great job talking about the history and, you know, who's driving the change and the options that are here for the campuses. We do have some of our campuses, our two-year campuses, that are been really engaged in this work. 30+% of their enrollment is driven off of PSEO, which obviously saves a lot of money for your constituents. Central Lakes in Brainerd is a big player. Southwest State is a big player. Fond du Lac is a big player. You know, around the state that are doing the work. And you know, the questions on, you know, quality and rigor, those are very relevant. But for the higher ed committee, we need to think through, I think, you know, if we're going to make drastic changes in this program, there has to be quite an off-ramp for these campuses, because they're doing this work, driving enrollment and keeping programs going. And if it goes away, that's a substantial change for the financial setting of those campuses, the ones that are way deep and way engaged. And, you know, most of the schools that I'm aware of that are engaged in this work at a high level have been celebrated for that. And, you know, whenever there's funding crisis, and I do go back as far as now, as Mr. Nathan, it was in the legislature when this program was developed, and it was all about funding. That's what the fight was about. It was Governor Perpich that drove this through the legislature, and it's the same conversation 40 years later. And a lot of it is not this proposal, but it's masked into stopping the access, stopping PSEO and limiting it. That's not where our campuses are at. We obviously have to make sure we're at the rigor level, but what we're doing for your constituents and saving money, and when you see students that have the ability to walk across the high school graduation stage and at their community college in the same weekend, that's a pretty cool thing. So it is money. It's something that our campuses, the ones that are being entrepreneurial, are trying to figure out how to, you know, where they fit and how they keep access going. But that is something that this committee is going to have to look at on the viability of some of those campuses if there are drastic changes, and I hope that would be part of the conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ullman. And I want it to be clear that I am 100% in favor of PSEO. I have a daughter that's full-time PSEO, straight A's, by the way. I think this is one of the best programs that we offer, and we should continue to support it. One of the concerns that I have with a task force like this, and it has to do with concerns that I hear from school board members and principals, is they're like, oh, what about our high school? We're losing all these kids. And, you know, our high school isn't what it used to be. And I think the number one consideration that we should make is what's best for kids. Not what's best for the institution of a high school or the institution of a college, but what's best for a junior or senior or even a 10th grader in high school. Can that kid, I'll pick on Algebra 2 because everybody knows how I feel about that. Can that student, rather than take Algebra 2 at high school, go take college algebra at the local college and get college credit for it? It's basically the same class, so I'm told, but I wouldn't know the difference. And that's best for the student. They're going to take pretty much the same class, but they're going to get college credit. And then people like me and my wife are going to have to pay a lot less money when our kids go to college. So I think whatever this task force does, it can't in any way pull back the opportunities that our kids have. I think to Senator Kupek's point, we do need more communication with our counselors. I'm good friends with the counselors in Hibbing, and they're like, we don't know if those kids are failing or not. Then all of a sudden they come back and we've got to find a summer school option for them just so they can graduate. That's a problem. And that's something that I think this task force could address. You know, maybe the standards, you know, maybe is it a 2.5 grade point average their senior year? Maybe that's a little low. Maybe we should have higher expectations of kids in high school in order to earn the right to go to PSEO. But under no circumstances should we pull any of the opportunities back. We always have to say what's best for the kids, and PSEO is what's best for the kids.
Thank you so much, Senator Farnsworth. Are there any final questions from members? Seeing none, any closing comments, Senator?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate the conversation today. And again, just think this is a phenomenal program. And unfortunately, the way that the funding formula has been structured and the pain points, you know, really that I think unfortunately have positioned some of our stakeholders in the E12 space against those in the higher ed space. Like, I really want us to kind of see this task force as a way to resolve that so that we can keep the best interests of students in mind and make sure that they have, you know, access to these opportunities. The connection I would make, right, is that these concerns are getting in the way of a lot of our institutions sharing the information that students need in order to access these programs. We heard, you know, some anecdotal stories about that. I can say as a former student, like, I wouldn't have even known about it had my sister not shared the opportunity with me. And I think she had PSEO students in her college courses and was like, you should really do this. So there's students who need to access this program, and we want to remove those barriers. Lastly, something that I have been meaning to talk to you about, Mr. Chair, is that the Minnesota P20, which I serve on as our representative from the Majority Caucus, brings together a lot of similar stakeholders in the education space. They've been looking at dual enrollment, not the funding. They're named in this bill as a stakeholder, and definitely think we should have, you know, this task force and continue to have these conversations. But they've been doing some really good work on kind of larger mission and vision for dual enrollment and for strengthening that program. So I do think it would be good to invite them here to the committee to share their annual report, talk about that work. That will certainly inform this task force if this bill is passed.
Thank you so much, Senator. And with that, Senator Putnam moves SF 2769 as amended to be passed and referred to the Committee on State and Local Government. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Your Honor, State Gov. Thank you so much, Senator. And before we conclude, I forgot to do this in the beginning. We do have a new committee administrator. His name is Chris Meyer, and I want to give him a minute or a second to introduce himself.
Well, thank you. I've been the CLA for the last 4 years, so I think most of you know me from that, but I'll reintroduce myself just a little bit. Before I started working here, I was previously elected to the Minneapolis Park Board, and I serve currently as the Minneapolis Chair of the Planning Commission. And you might see me on my bike. I have never driven a car in my life, never planned on getting my license. I bike in from Minneapolis every day and always try to encourage everyone else to try that too. But I look forward to serving in this new role as CA.
Thank you so much, Chris. And with that, we are adjourned.